Hey guys, we are here with Dale and Chris. They are general contractors doing rehabers, but I'll let them introduce themselves, and we are going to talk and get you a lot of value about how choosing a general contractor, understanding all the planning and execution and the governance related about doing projects and rehabs, especially for you being from the investor standpoint. And let's start us.
Yeah, guys, so pretty much I was in pharmaceuticals for about 7 years and started to build out a really great network. Growing up, I was always remodeling and building things as a hobby, but I heard a lot about contractors really burning homeowners and homeowners giving up a lot of cash and contractor would never return. So I contacted Chris, who's been a good friend of mine. We went to high school together, and he actually went to school for the construction side of things, and I figured my management skills and organizational skills really matched up with how high quality and skillful he is at what he does. And we've been serving the greater Cleveland community for 3.5, 4 years now. So that's how we came to be.
So you started in 2018 or so? Is when you started?
Yeah, right. Yeah, mid-17.
Mid-17.
Late 18, yeah. Early 18.
And how was it for you, Chris? I mean, how did you get into this, or were you already in this?
So I was already in this. As Dale explained, I went to the trade school back when I was in high school. I started this at about 15 years old, going to school for it. I grew up around it, had family that owned contracting businesses.
Nice.
So my whole life growing up, I was always around it, real hands-on. So even going to school, I already knew what I kind of was getting into and how to do it. After I graduated high school, I was going to go to college for construction management. I opted not to, and just to stay in the trades. And then, like Dale said, I just built my skill, prided myself on quality of work, and kept trucking along, doing the work. And then Dale reached out to me, and Dale has more of the business background of it, to where I have more of the work aspect of it and skilled aspect of it to do the work.
Amazing. Okay, so I think maybe with this we can go to the next point. Like you mentioned, the quality, and I want to talk with you about, investor thinking about choosing a contractor, and I want to have your tips. From your standpoint, the contractor, what should be the investor criteria, questions, and tips for selecting the right contractor for his job?
Yeah, so if you look at our website, contracting.com, right, we break down 3 pillars of success, we call it. So C is communication. Make sure we, or any contractor you guys work with, have great communication. The Q stands for quality.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got to have good quality, which is where Chris really plays that part. T is the teamwork.
Yeah.
So you have to have the right team in place, right? I got the management side. Chris has the skill side, finding the right workers. So when we bring that together, we keep communication to you guys, we keep the quality up, and then we have the right team in place. So I think all 3 of those really is the key to success, not only on our end, but you guys need to find the contractor with that.
When we say the right contractor versus the good contractor, so there is, first of all, as you mentioned there, the communication is something that is important, and you can have a grasp up front, okay, how is the communication, even before the work has started, and also try and understand when we talk about quality, what is the experience and expertise of the contractor? Like we talked about, okay, are you doing cheap and quick work for rental property in certain area, or are you focused on retail or high-end area? And always choose someone that is the right one, already have experience doing the relevant job that you want to do. So understanding if it's like a contractor for rental or retail, that's an important factor as well. And with that, I want to talk about specifically what you both mentioned, which is the quality. Obviously, you have the experience, for the people who doesn't know, in doing really high-end projects, which can be suitable for retail flip or higher-end areas. So if we focus around that and say, okay, we are looking on a project to rehab a property and sell it in the market, and now as an investor, I'm approaching you. What would be, and let's say I have a property that I'm prospecting to buy. When is the right time to approach you? What kind of inputs should the buyer or client provide you, so you can really have the communication with him and say, look, this is what you can expect in terms of what we're going to do in the property, how much time it's going to take, how much time it's going to cost, so we don't have surprises after we are already in the deal. What should be the right process for such communication?
I think Chris would be going to answer that on what we're going to put into the work.
So, like Dale said, obviously communication. So obviously the property has to work for everybody. If you're an experienced contractor, like we pride ourselves with experience and quality, we should be able to navigate the entire property and be able to tell you what it's going to need without any giant surprises once we get into it. Now, obviously there are some unforeseens that if something's buried in a wall and you had no clue about, that's understandable. But we pride ourselves in our experience to where we can say we understand this property is going to make everybody money and it's going to work for you guys and it's going to work for us, versus we're not just going to say, all right, we can do it for X amount sight unseen. But like Dale said, the communication and pretty much starting off communication, everybody's on the same page with communication, everybody likes the property and can properly identify the property and what they're getting into.
Yeah, so I think what we can say here, when we manage the project and we think about the opportunity and the risks, this is something we can communicate in, like, let's say, the due diligence period before we close on the deal, and we can see that it's a good fit and already go into the details in this stage and then proceed and close on the property. And I think there are also opportunities, because working with quality contractors, you can also then go back to the seller. And Chris, we talked about that. Maybe you want to share the example, how this work can help even reducing the property price when you're doing the proper due diligence.
Yeah, so from experience in the past, we've taken a look at inspections, right? And we know good verbiage, contractual work, where we're going to look at the property. We're actually going to look at comps in the area too sometimes. And so we know what this house could probably sell for based on what we're going to say, hey, this is the cost to do the rehab. So for an example, we had a house that was initially going to be sold for $100,000. After the inspection came back, our investor we were working with at the time, based on our verbiage and looking over that contract, we shaved it down and actually saved that investor $20,000 on the purchase price. So then we got in there, we did a $150,000 rehab. The house sold in a couple days?
3 or 4 days.
3 or 4 days for $310,000 US dollars. So when you're looking at that, I have to make money, you have to make money, and that's why I kind of go that extra mile in looking at the comps in the area to make sure. I think you guys call it ARV.
Yeah.
So I know what ARV is. So I work your ARV beforehand, so I know you're going to make your percentage.
That's amazing. I think when we talk about communication, teamwork, and quality, we see all of these three aspects are going to get together, because when we do this work before we close on the deal and we align expectation, so working with the contractor, this is why we say ARV, because the after repair value depends on the quality of the repair.
Yep.
If we repair to the rental grade, then it will be the rental value. But if we repair it to the high-end retail grade and we find the right comps for that, we can say, okay, you know what, this is the amount we can get for the property, and then calculate backwards how much it's worth to pay. And when you do this work, you can also estimate how much you're going to sell the property, but you can also utilize this work to negotiate with the seller and create your margin in between the buying and selling. So these are great tips. Anything else that you want to maybe share in terms of people working with inspector, and let's say now we closed on the property and we are working on it, in terms of like ongoing communication and ongoing management of the project? What should an investor expect, or when should the investor have some kind of red flag that, okay, something here is wrong with the execution? I'm talking about tips in general for a person that might have chosen a contractor and it's not working well. What could be red flags for him? Hey, you know what, something here in the communication, in the teamwork, in the quality is not going well. What can be those red flags?
I think Chris would answer that best, being a project manager.
So with the last house that we did, communication, I wanted communication weekly. That was my personal preference on it. And it wasn't for us to just say, hey, look, we're getting anything done. It's so we could explain what we're getting done. And so he understood the process, where we were at. We can explain our timeline, where we expected to be, So if we told them on a Friday, and 3 Fridays from now, we'll be here, the following Friday, if something came up, we could explain to them, we already know 2 weeks ahead of time why we won't be there next Friday. We don't want you to wait 3 weeks and then say, hey, what's going on? Vice versa, if we're ahead of schedule, we'll let you know, hey, we're going to be done a week and a half ahead of schedule. Things are going great. We're moving to the next phase of the project.
Amazing. Amazing. I think that, and honestly, I have here to share with experience with a different contractor that I've worked with. And what I've learned is exactly what you said right now. You know, for investors, we tend to naturally think about the cost. Are we in the budget? Are we going to be out of the budget? But I think what you've mentioned regarding the time is super important, and I think that's the key. What I've learned, what I'm doing right now is exactly what you said. The communication, the frequency of communication. I would even say that on some of the projects, it wasn't just weekly, it was even daily or bi-daily, talking with and that's a great tip. I mean, for investors that are investing out of their backyard and they want to have the communication, you can today do like video calls and, hey, what's up, so you can see the person is on site, you know, live, and that's part of the, you know, governance you can do. And I think it's the details on the costs within the budget as you progress, the timelines. If you track those details, those tiny details, and you keep the communication, I think everyone are happy, because also from the contractor side, you want to make sure you don't have surprises then on the back end from the buyer saying, hey, it's not what I thought, and then things goes sideways.
Yeah.
Any other tips or thoughts that you might want to say about selecting a contractor, working with contractors, maybe after work?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, there's a lot of like support groups and conference calls I sit on with how to run the business more efficiently and how to weed out, you know, even us as a general contractor, how do we weed out subcontractors, right? I think it's important to look at, you know, and you don't want to be judgmental, but somebody's vehicle that they drive, right? Are you willing to pay some contractor that has a terrible vehicle, that may not maintain it, that may break down? So if they're not maintaining their own equipment, 2 things are happening, right? They're either being underpaid, and that's because either they just don't really know how to manage their own side of the business, or they're just being taken advantage of, right? And you want to find that middle.
Yes.
Because I think tools and quality of how somebody takes care of their own stuff is how they're going to take care of you as a person, and how they're going to treat you as an individual and an investor. So
I think maybe you're touching the most important key. Eventually, in real estate, you know, we think about the structure, but it's all about the people. And we talked about it a lot, you know, in our conversation, and now you bring this up. When you work with good people, you know, in terms of not just their intention, but also capability.
Correct.
Some people want to be good, but not necessarily have the experience and capability to do good.
Yep.
So these are things you can pick up, you know, just being alert to details and trying to see, like, okay, does he has the equipment? What is, you know, we talked about experience, but you can try and gauge what's going on with the person and think about the people. If you are focused on that and you have a good team, the deals and the money will follow.
absolutely.
Definitely.
Great. I hope you enjoyed that. If you have more questions about things related to renovation, making houses or flipping retail projects, and everything related to rehabs, renovations, put it here on the remarks. We'll love to answer your questions. And if you liked it, share with a like, share with your friends. We're really giving information, practical information from experience, from the ground, no cost. Really want to give you value. We hope you enjoyed it and have success in your investments.